Your host for this session is Cheryl Stelp. Cheryl is an Azarius energy healer and the creator of the Star of Divine Light Institute. Take it away, Cheryl.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And with me today, I have the one, the only amazing and very funny Al Jensen. Welcome, Al.
Hey, Cheryl, good to be with you today. Good to be with you.
Oh, so good to have you here. And Al is going to be speaking with us about entrepreneurial storytelling to dominate your market. And Al is such an amazing guy. And he tells us that mere mortals hire Al Jensen to help them develop their signature speech, story, presentation, and their revenue-generating business. Because most people know their subject matter, but they don't know how to package and present it with confidence, either online or in person, in order to convert prospects into customers. He puts his 45 plus years of speaking, storytelling, and presentation skills experience to work developing the same talents in his clients that he used to connect with and move his own client audiences, working with authors, speakers, and coaches to develop their presentations for both the virtual world and the live stage. They become convincing, confident, capable, and profitable presenters. Who wants more convincing, confident, capable, and profitable? Yeah. Bottom line, he transforms mere mortals into confident, capable speaking and storytelling rock stars. So glad to have you here.
Wow, thank you. After that introduction, I can't wait to hear what I have to say.
Oh, really great, really great. And so Al, 45 plus years. That's a lot of time. There's, what's the percentage of people on the planet who are even living for 45 years? And so
right.
It's really something. So tell us the story. You must have hundreds, if not thousands of stories to tell in your 45 years. Can you give us a story of a real transitional time for you? What made you really want to do this work?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. Can you remember when you were a teenager? Can you remember at least for the guys, the hormones that were basically driving every single decision you made? Well, I was a teenager. I was born and raised in Central America. Yeah, that's right, Central America. That's Iowa, for those of you not familiar with U.S. geography. So I was born in Northeast Iowa. It's the land of dirt. It's the land of snow. It's the land of John Deere tractors. There's not a lot going on there. But 4-H was a big deal in Northeast Iowa in the mid 1970s, early 1970s, when I was growing up there. And remember, hormones were driving my life decisions as they were, every other teenagers at that point in time. So I wanted to hang out with this girl, Denise D.D. Billerbeck. Now, she was, as far as I was concerned, the prettiest girl in the entire county. Now, there were like 17,000 people in the county. So it was rural, but I was really, really attracted to her. And in 1974, I went to the Grundy County 4-H Fair. I'm walking down the livestock barn, walking down the aisle, and I heard somebody call out, "Alan, Alan," and I looked over. And no, it wasn't that 1,500-pound Charolais steer. No, it was Denise D.D. Billerbeck, and she was calling my name. I had no idea she even knew who I was, let alone knew my name. But she called me, and I went over and talked to her, and my throat immediately dried up, and my knees started knocking. And she says, "Are you going to be on the 4-H County Council?" Well, I don't know. Are you going to be on the county council? She says, "Well, my dad, he's kind of like the king of 4-H in the county. So yeah, I'm going to be on the county council." I said, "Well, if you're going to be on, count me in. I'm on the county council with you." She goes, "Great. In order to make it on the county council, just go over to the pavilion, sign the papers for your candidacy, and then you can give your campaign speech tonight at 7 o'clock. And that's when I totally froze. Like, what are you talking about? Says, "Yeah, we're giving campaign speeches tonight, and then they vote, and then they figure out who's going to be on the county council." Well, did I mention that hormones were driving me at that point in time? So I went over to the pavilion. I filled out the paperwork. I showed up at 7 o'clock to give my campaign speech. And I had never given a speech before. I had no idea. But I got on that stage. I had 3 minutes. And I told everybody in the audience about two events that the local 4-H programming had done, which really impacted my life. I got to take a trip to Chicago, a 4-day trip. We took a bus into Chicago, got to see all sorts of really cool stuff around Chicago, made some really great friends. And then I went to a retreat, a week-long, kind of like a summer camp retreat, where I met other kids my age from various counties, and it really had an impact on my life. So I told these stories when I'm on stage, and they give me the cue that I got 30 seconds left. So I said, please vote for me. And, and I, shuffled off stage. And at the end of the night, I was voted. I had the most votes of anybody who stood up on stage and asked to be on the 4-H County Council. So I got to be the president of the 4-H County Council, but more importantly, I got to hang out with Denise D.D. Billerbeck on a very regular basis. And that was just awesome. Now, once I became the president of the county council, they sent me to the area council, which was 7 counties. And then the area council sent me to the state council, which was all 99 counties in Iowa. And they said, Jensen, you're going to go out and you're going to tell people your story about how 4-H impacted your life as a kid and how you have grown and how it's just making your life so much better. You're going to go out and speak to audiences about that. Oh, great. Here we go again. So I had to book myself at churches, at libraries, at schools, at community centers, and I would get on stage for 30 to 45 minutes, tell my stories and tell people how awesome 4-H was. And then here's an application, sign up and join 4-H. Now, between my sophomore year in high school and my senior year in high school, I spoke on over 200 stages, telling my story, inviting other kids to join 4-H. And they must have loved it because the membership continued to grow and they loved what I did. And little did I realize that later in life, I would call upon those skills that I developed, speaking in front of over 200 audiences in a couple of years while I was in high school, that really set the stage for me to be able to speak in public when I got into the corporate world and started working for a real business. They'd send me out to the Chamber of Commerce and talk about our company, and they'd send me out to a trade association function, talk about our company. So it was just a natural progression. And now, some close to 50 years later, I am continuing to speak on stage, like right here today, and I'm pushing about 8,000 stage appearances back since 1974. So I learned really at a young age the value of telling stories, telling our own personal story. And that's how we connect with other people. I mean, I could give you stats and statistics and percentages and ratios and forms, but you're not going to remember that stuff. You're going to remember the story about how when I was 14 years old, growing up in rural Northeast Iowa, how my hormones drove me to get on the 4-H County Council and leverage that. And I didn't even know what the term leverage meant, but I ultimately leveraged that into a pretty doggone good career speaking on stage. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. What a great story. And people are blown away in the audience. If you're blown away by Al Jensen's story, put a 1 in the chat. I mean, this is something else. 200 stages so early on, before you even entered the workplace. Like, seriously, 200 stages, and now you're at over 8,000. And I have some questions. Did you get further training? Did you get further speaker training along the way?
And now that was 1974 to 77 when I was in high school. I got out into the corporate world, and the guy who owned the company was a commercial first aid and safety distribution company. And he said, listen, why don't you join Toastmasters? So it was like mid to late 1980s, 10 years later. And I, okay, I don't know anything about it, but I joined Toastmasters and it was an awesome experience. So I've been a Toastmaster since, late 1980s. Currently, I'm still a Toastmaster here in fabulous Las Vegas, where I live. I'm the president of a President's Distinguished Club and, all that cool stuff. So Toastmasters gave me kind of that little jump start that I needed, a safe place to practice. And that ultimately has turned into me creating my own kind of advanced Toastmasters program. I call it the Speaker Enrichment Academy, where people get more than just a chance a month to speak. But still, the Toastmasters thing was a stepping stone to allow me a great place to practice and get some feedback and continue to, put a little sharp edge on my skills.
Oh, how many more sharp edges can one get? And so, you just your presence, you bring so much value. And, I'm a very spiritual person, and I just want to say it's wonderful to be here with you. And you are transmitting the expert speaker energy to all of us. And may we all absorb some of you. And so receiving your wisdom, your experience, it's really your experience and doing this for so long. And so what do you have to tell us today about entrepreneurial storytelling to help build that confidence? And, one of the things that stands out to me is you said it's a way to connect. It's a way to connect. But today you're going to be talking about entrepreneurial storytelling to dominate the market.
Yeah, exactly.
The market so we can connect more.
Yeah, I like to quote three people who are pretty doggone successful in the world of business. Seth Godin, you've probably read his books, maybe seen his videos. Seth Godin says, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but it's about the stories that you tell. Oh, Seth, man, couldn't have said it better myself. Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And Gary Vaynerchuk, he's kind of divisive. Some people love him, some people hate him, but I have a great respect for the guy who has made some tremendous growth in entrepreneurship. Gary Vaynerchuk says, no matter what you do, your job is to tell your story. So those are three quotes that really have resonated with me. And the way I like to describe it is we as entrepreneurs, we are, and some people are going to not like to hear this, but it's the absolute truth. We as entrepreneurs, we are a commodity. So regardless of what you do, what product you sell, what service you offer, there's 100, 500, 1,000, a million other people offering the exact same programming as you. You might say, well, I'm different. Well, you may be different. And that's where your story comes in. Your story, your background is truly what sets you apart from the hundreds or thousands or millions of other people offering the same program. And if people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You got to tell them why you do it. What was your start? What was your motivation? What was your inspiration? So I shared my origin story on how I got into the business of speaking on stage and moving audiences to action. So what story do you have to tell? What are you going to tell your audiences that will set you apart from the thousands or millions of other people who offer the exact same program that you offer? So I do a program called the 5 stories that every entrepreneur must be prepared to tell from stage. And I just shared my origin story. That helped to connect with my audience, and it helped people to understand my why. It was the story that I tell. It's why I do it. And that's what it takes today to set yourself apart. So you have to understand that you need to tell a connection story. You need to tell an origin story. And another story that entrepreneurs really need to know how to tell is called a hero's guide story. Because if I'm here for today 30 minutes, or if I'm here for an hour or half a day, whatever it might be, if I do nothing but talk about myself, that's going to get really boring. Yes, people need to connect with me. They need to understand my origin. They need to know my why. But the way that I'm going to inspire people in the audience to want to connect with me, to work with me, is by telling a hero's guide story. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a hero's guide story. I'm not going to use myself. I'll
Yes,
use
please.
I'll use Joe as an example. So Joe is a life coach, and Joe gets on stage and says, "Hey, everybody, I want to tell you a story about Pete." Now, Pete came to me about 6 months ago and told me that he was having depression, and he had anxiety, and he was just always exhausted. And he just didn't want to live that way. He wanted to find the energy and the excitement in life. So Joe says, I sat down with Pete and we went through a questionnaire. I found out a little bit more about him and some of his background and maybe what was causing some of his issues. And then Pete and I developed a plan of action, a 6-month plan of action. And in the first month, Pete was going to do this particular activity. We met at the end of that month and evaluated what kind of results he got and how he felt as a result of that. And then we decided on another plan of action for the second month. And Pete went out and he did all those tasks and things that I asked him to do. So at the end of the third month, we did the same thing. Now, 6 months later, Pete is excited about life. Pete is excited to get up in the morning. He's got energy. He has clarity. He's no longer depressed. He's no longer anxious. He greets every day with enthusiasm. So be like Pete. So what Joe is doing here is he's illustrating that Pete is the hero. He's the main character of the story who's doing the work. But on a side note, everybody is hearing that Joe, the coach, is the one who is making this happen. He's guiding the hero. So as a speaker, you want to bring some of your testimonials to life. You've got some clients that you've worked with that are really happy with what you've done. And if you don't want to use their name, you can give them a fake name, a stage name, a ghost name, a pen name, whatever you will, and tell that story about one of your clients who is the hero. They overcame and they made great progress, and you were simply the guide. Because the people in the audience are going, wow, that's pretty awesome. I want to have the same results that Pete had. Maybe I'll hire you, Joe. Maybe that'd be a good thing to do. So it's a great way to bring your testimonials to life. And people don't always want to hear about you as the hero of the story. They want to hear some other stories as well. So that's another very valuable story that you can bring your business, you can bring the value that you offer to the world, you can bring that to life through telling a hero's guide story. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. And you know what I like about it, and I'm sure you have a real method in help bringing out the hero's guide story, because it's one thing to state testimonials, but it's another, what you've really pointed out is bringing those testimonials to life so that the audience relates to them. And in my opinion, that they can see themselves in that hero's shoes, and people start to raise their hands.
Yeah,
I want to be like that. I want to have that hero story. And you have some great fans here. People are loving this. Raimondo and Paula, Patricia, Albie. I mean, look. And so bringing the hero's guide story to life. So you have mentioned the origin story, the why,
the connection story where you get people to connect with you. Yeah.
And the hero's guide, is there one more?
So you want to have your origin story, your why story, your entrepreneur's journey. People want to hear how you got to where you are today. So I think that's the fifth one that we hadn't mentioned so far.
Okay. And the entrepreneur story is what you shared with us. I asked you to please share a story. So you weren't even an entrepreneur yet, really. When your journey started, you were destined for entrepreneurship, and yet you went through the corporate world. So how many people here were entrepreneurs before they really realized it? Who was in the corporate world, who was living a life and was destined for entrepreneurship long before? Let's see, anyone put a 1 in the chat. Do you relate to being in that and knowing that this formula could really help you.
I'm sure there's a lot. Now, we're getting close to the end of our time, and I want to make sure people get a chance to grab the free gift that I'm offering. This is a $197 self-paced study program that you can do at your own pace. If you really want to get it done, you can get it done in less than 4 hours, and you can identify which story you need to tell, and lots of great information there. And it's called Entrepreneurial Storytelling to Dominate Your Market. So you can grab it. There's a link. Albie put a link in the chat box there. You can grab that. And then we have a VIP gift as well for those people who have signed up for VIP. It's another self-study program that will just really help you focus in on your stories, how and why you need to tell them. These are just a couple of the awesome training programs, self-study programs that I have in my store. So I'm making them available to everybody. They get the Entrepreneurial Storytelling to Dominate Your Market. And then we've got a VIP gift as well, the ultimate guide to entrepreneurial storytelling. So those are available. I encourage everybody here to sign up for the VIP. Not only get the recordings to go back and watch, because somebody else is doing a program right now that you're missing, and thank you for being here, but that VIP is so valuable. So sign up, grab that VIP while it's available, and grab my gifts, because I truly want you to use storytelling to set yourself apart in the marketplace and really just elevate your business to the next stage.
Absolutely. And I want the same, and everybody here at this summit wants the same, to really help people elevate. And Raimondo has a question. Your why belongs to the connection story or the origin story?
No, your why story is kind of it's kind of a collaboration or a connection, or a collaboration of your connection and your origin story. So and it depends on the audience that you're in front of and how much time you have. So the first and foremost important story you can tell is your connection story. You got to get your audience to connect with you on a level so they can understand that, hey, this guy or this gal understands where I'm at. They've been there. And so that connection story is most important. And then your why story, if you've got more time, you want to delve deeper into your why. This is what motivated me to start my business. My wife had cancer, or my mother was in a nursing home, whatever it might be. And I looked up one day and I thought, yeah, this is what I need to do. So that's kind of your why story. So I think Paula was asking what those 5 stories are. Number 1, your connection story. Number 2, your entrepreneurial journey, your entrepreneur's journey, your why story. And which one did I forget? I love to do
the origin.
The origin story. And I love to do what I call a fixed up fable. We don't have time today, but I have an awesome fable that I have created and turned into a story that really makes a solid point for me. In fact, I've used that fable in storytelling contests and won $10,000 in a contest once, telling my fable, which really helps to illustrate. So if you grab my gift, you're going to be on my email list, and you'll be able to find all of those.
All the 5. All the 5. Yep. Can you give us the last 2? So I have 1 is connection, 2 is why. Or 2 is
entrepreneurial journey, your hero's guide story, hero's guide, and then your fixed up fable, where you use a fictional fable to illustrate a point for you.
Love it. So there we have them all there.
Yep.
We have them all there. Well, this has been amazing, and we're going to be moving on to the next speaker. And so, Al, this has been so helpful. Any final words for our audience today? They are waiting.
I'm going to go back to Gary Vaynerchuk, who is just so uber successful. And he says, storytelling is by far the most underrated skill when it comes to business. People know their topic, they know their content, but if you can't tell a story, you're going to have a real hard time setting yourself apart in the marketplace. So learn your story, identify your story, and most importantly, tell your story.
Thank you so much, Al. It has just been such a pleasure to be with you here today. Absolutely awesome. And our next speaker up is James Lamb, and he's going to be talking about how to get unlimited free leads. So awesome.
And James Lamb is a rock star. You got to see that.
He's a rock star. Okay, lots of love and light.
That was an amazing expert. Stay tuned. We've got more for you coming right up. Don't forget to upgrade to VIP, where you'll get the recordings of the entire event, plus some amazing bonuses from our generous speakers. See you soon.